Next speaker, Dr. Alan Poon is also in the house. Welcome, Dr. Alan. You can actually open up your cam and also unmute yourself so we can have a quick chit chat. I know that you have an event today, but you actually took time for us to where is he? You actually took time to join us today. Yeah. Oh, okay, Dr. Alan, how have you been? I know you're
Hello,
so
Caroline.
busy. Yes, this guy are very hard to get. Super duper busy. But I bug him until he has no choice to say yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
Actually, thank you for coming. And okay, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Alan Poon is our next judge. I knew him a few years ago, and he's our judge for this event. He's also our speaker. But if you know him, like I do a few years ago, he does so many things until I also want to bring some. Yeah, basically, he's a futurist, he's a strategist, he's an educator, and of course, we know him as the founder and CEO from Superior Wealth Resources. And of course, today, these 2 days is actually in the midst of training EMBA students. But he's here in the Zoom today to tell us about the academic pathways to startup entrepreneurship. And he's also from Superior Wealth, which I will give you more information in. So we give him some time so he can have someone to brief and something to eat before his next session. Okay, over to you, Dr. Alan.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much for the, as usual, short and sweet introduction. So sorry, I was switching at 12 o'clock just to come in, and I was looking at Dr. Liu for a while. I think I will just go through all these well-known speakers' content later on. But once again, thank you for having me, and a bit the last minute arrangement, but there's no issue because we just do what we can in building adding value to all the startups that is part of the Alibaba Create 2022. Once again, thank you to the organizers, Andrew, Ian, and yourself, Caroline, for the wonderful platform. I'm happy to do my sharing here. I promise it won't be a long one because I'm using this 12 to 1 session to share, as well as also a lunchtime from my master's degree class right now to basically just jump over. No worries about lunch. I will just do some intermittent fasting today. So I believe that this is a live session on Facebook as well as a Zoom, right?
Yep, you have about 200 people watching you on.
Okay, wow, 200 people. So I won't be able to catch some of these questions. So perhaps, Caroline, you can just collate it, and maybe perhaps at the end, if there's some time, we can just answer them. So what I'll do is that I've just shared my screen. Hope all of you can see it. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first quarter of 2022. And I'm excited about the remaining 3 months. I know we have a very tough time the last 3 years. And very excited about Alibaba Create Startup Contest. Looking forward to see some of the finalists that will be chosen until the end of this month. For me, I will not bring in my perspective as a subject matter expert in terms of my real estate background. For those of you who have seen me speak before, I'm usually in the real estate space. But today I will be coming over not just as a judge, but as also someone who believes in entrepreneurship. I myself have gone through almost 2 decades of entrepreneurship. And my age right now, I just basically completed my master's degree that I did last year in the US, and it was quite a profound experience for me, which I will talk a bit later in the sharing. Okay, but for now, just let me get to the chase. Basically, for those of you who have not seen me before, here's a little bit of my profile. Call me AP or Alan Poon, minus the doctor, because some people will call it, with the acronym DAP. So I will try to avoid that as much as possible. But I'm an engineer by profession, so didn't really practice much on my engineering days. But I did work in a car company, national car company, which you all love to hate. Those days with the power windows and not, but I think across the years they have evolved and innovate much. So I'm still very much in the technological sphere. I'm a corporate member of the Malaysian Technology Association of Malaysia, the longest civil technical society since 1945. I'm very into basically the technical field. Got myself certifications, and currently I'm also appointed to look into some of the innovative technological solutions from the area estate side. So basically, I have two industries that I'm very much into. One is the real estate, and one, of course, in the academia. I'm very passionate about lifelong learning, education, being a trainer, looking into HR, the COP approved courses. I have my own company, Superior Wealth, group of companies which we do education, events, and advisory. Came up with 3 good books. We did 3 weeks, got myself into the Merge World Records. So this is a little bit about me, nothing to shout about, just to let you know that you're talking to someone that has actually gone through the roller coaster of or the so-called the cycle of entrepreneurship, doing a lot of advisory work, and yes, I'm running my course this week. I think some of my students are in here as well. So if you're here, for those of you, just say hi in the chat, and yeah, we will see you after lunch, your lunch. Okay, I will see you after this session. So these are some of my local presence as well as international. Some of the things that I've did before in the past, talks, my appearance in live shows, and of course, recent years, the Zoom sessions and whatnot. These are some of my clients. All right. So, okay, today we are going to cover basically a short one. I don't think even I can cover 10 minutes now. I was allocating 40 minutes. I think we have to allocate some time for Q&A, and I have to have like a 5 minutes kind of session to grab a bite if I can. If not, I will just jump straight to the next Zoom session to continue my second half of my so-called master degree course. Basically, I'll talk a little bit about what I observe in the technological sphere in terms of the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurship that is going on. Because today, I believe in Alibaba Create, we are doing this speakers workshop to basically impart to knowledge to those who have actually participated or already enrolled into this startup contest, as well as also to solicit interest and make aware for those of them who are still deliberating whether they should join this. I'm sure some of them are past participants who come back to support. I think everyone are actually observing this sphere where when it comes to tech startup and entrepreneurship is our concern. And I will basically bring in a different perspective. I know some of them are like a very well-known expert. I think I followed last week session as well, and including this week's session, a lot of angles. Some are talking about, I think the next speaker after lunch will be my good friend who's talking about how to do some pitching to investors and whatnot. So, but today I want to bring in a different perspective, because I always, as a lifelong learning practitioner, I always believe that academic journey is something that we will want to do given the time and resources. Correct me if I'm wrong. If in fact, I was asking my student just now, if money is not and time is not an issue, would you want to continue studying? All right. I think the answer is yes. Despite whether you are proficient in English, in your own mother tongue or whatever, I think it is something that is very enriching. It feeds the soul, and I look forward to in my old age where I can just pick a book and read it without any disturbance. Although I can do it now during my mail allocate time every week. I'm a fast reader, so I would want to share my journey of how my own executive masters that I took last year during the pandemic has actually kind of enriched my journey over the last 2 decades of entrepreneurship, as well as formalized some business knowledge. I did one from the US online, and basically why it applies in terms of some of the skills that we are seeing in today's startup world, especially post-pandemic, where it's so relevant and so distinctively required. And of course, if you don't mind, I will just end with your permission to talk about the executive program that I'm heading right now in entrepreneurship for one of the local universities with a dual award in UK. All right, so there's no selling, but just some introduction on why I believe this is something that I think can impart and perhaps a knowledge. Because when I talk to a lot of startup entrepreneurs, most of them were saying that they don't have time, they are busy. And I guess it's all because we are lacking in terms of resources, which is basically time and money. And I think this is something that could give a perspective. And I believe one of our speaker last week, or is it yesterday? No, last week, talk about from the APO perspective, yeah. So when it talks to entrepreneurship or technological entrepreneurship, yeah, but to be very specific, basically today the sphere is very much into the very much driven thanks to 20 years ago, the grandfather of all, which is Alibaba. Alibaba started e-commerce, and the definition of business model started from there. Business school, all the B schools are, getting their professors looking into remodeling some of not just the business model, but the academic syllabus in the programs to make it relevant, to make it industry-based. And I think business model is quite new compared to the years of, some of these Ivy Leagues in the world who are, have been instituted since 100 and 200 over years ago. Even the premier university in Malaysia, where I came from University of Malaya, has been so many years of history. But today we have to be relevant. And being an industry advisor for 2 top universities in Malaysia and colleges in their PhD, masters, and degree program, I believe I have the credentials to say that I've seen the gaps in the market between academia and industry, and why there's a need. Because at the end of the day, on a personal level, we build our families, we have children, we send them to schools, we spend money, we spend a lot to fund our children for quality education. At the same time, we have our team in the business arena. We hire people, and of course, business owners, the frustrations when you want to go for interview and hiring, you talk to fresh graduates, and you feel that there's a gap. And as a startup entrepreneur, you cannot just hire a chief human resource officer to just pass the buck to them and say that, your KPI is to get these talents in, this is my budget for my venture capital fundraise, I done my part, you go and handle the human capital side of it. I think that's not fair. I think as a startup entrepreneur, whether you are talking about tech or even agri-tech or even non-tech for that matter, I think it's important to basically understand that there is a very heavy correlation between academic and entrepreneurship. And I want to start off this today short sharing because I don't have much time. We are less than 30 minutes. I value the organizers' punctuality as well as my own and others. So I will basically end before 1 or exactly at 1 after Q&A, whatever. So I have to cram whatever that I prepared here over, I think, 50 over slides, Caroline, for maybe in the next 20 minutes or so. Basically, I will look into some of the famous names that you know of, that you have inspired. For those of you who went through this journey of entrepreneurship, I'm sure you are inspired. You have a compelling reason why you want to start up a company, register it, getting fundings and whatever not, and getting your basically, getting your hands dirty. And I think it's a very interesting journey for you. So let me start off with some of the faces that you are really familiar with. Some of you can recognize them because they're still young. Some of them you cannot recognize them because these are some of their younger photos. Okay, hair also changed. Some of them black and white. They are no longer here. I think the middle one I put there because that is one icon that I personally felt has inspired me a lot. Jack Dorsey from Twitter. All right. And of course, Mark has been the name for the last few years, especially last year when he basically changed Facebook to Metaverse. So-called Meta, the company called Meta. You see a nice guy there with a black robe, actually, he was termed as one of the wisest, most intelligent person on earth today. All right. Whether it's marketing propaganda or not, whether he has a few billions there to put his position there, I'm not sure. We have, of course, the legendary Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, and also Bill Gates there. So what are these 5 people or more, in fact, have in common? Anyone want to read a guess from the comments in Facebook or even Zoom? You can unmute or you can just type in there. Any particular that you think of? Basically, of course, they are in tech, right? Yeah, that's the reason why I chose them there. They are basically in tech. They are also, of course, Westerners. Okay, with due respect, this is Alibaba Create event, all right? It's not that I do not want to put any Asian face there, because they have pioneered the tech space, the names, and as you know, the Westerns, US, they are very, very, very good in packaging and branding and market their country as well as their business circle, all right? Yeah, some of them say genius, some will say, they represent innovation, but there's one distinctive thing when it comes to academia. All of them are college dropout, all right? Not just high school, but college dropout, okay? Elon Musk have only did 2 days in Stanford before he dropped out. Jack Dorsey even drop out twice from 2 universities, all right? You don't have to talk about Bill Gates and what do you call this, the late Steve Jobs, because they have dropped out even from high school. Of course, Mark, he got inspiration from his high school friends. And of course, they didn't finish graduate. But lo and behold, all of them have taken the stance in, giving the speech or the so-called wrap-up speech in graduation, wearing the robe, even getting the honorary doctorates that they deserve. It's not because they have skipped academia. It's not because they find that entrepreneurship is very enriching. It is because that Well, first of all, like I said, it's marketed that way to us in the media, but it's because that they felt that it's more meaningful for them to go into something that they believe on in the early days. But I can tell you one thing, I may even use the word, all these are bullcrap. Very, very bold to make that statement. Because why? The success factor of these people, how many can duplicate? Or in the words of startup, how many can actually scale to even duplicate some of these things? If you are looking to aim to be a unicorn today, you are looking into all these past case studies and research, you will be looking at legendary CEO or chief titans, that captain of the ships, right? You will, like in the words of Dr. James the last week, authority in you want to be the authority in your field. You would want to look up to some icon or mentor, all right? And I can tell you, this is bad examples in the West. Why? Because it's not duplicatable. So I have to be very brutally honest. It may ruffle some feathers. Because why? Even in Malaysia, even in Asia, even in Asia Pacific, how many unicorns are there? All right. Of course, you may say that this is due to time. You know, we started, we have none, then there are a few unicorns. Now we're talking about decacorns, right? And I don't say this. Whenever we talk about academic, we have to back it with references, we have to back it with studies, and we cannot just put up a slide, just pick up the things and make it look nice and market it like a presentation pitch, all right? This is basically done by incubator and a startup school themselves, comment fellows. Basically, successful college dropout is very rare. Okay, the keyword is successful, all right? College dropout is a lot. Even in our own country, where most of you are watching this from, or if this is shared worldwide, all right? But the majority of this startup, when I say executive, I'm putting the founders themselves as the chief executives, all right? Which usually they are. Most of them have advanced degrees later, either in stage or later, of course, for the dropouts, they took it later in life. They upgrade, they upskill, just like Elon Musk, all right, himself. That's a genius, like that. He's a rare college dropout who have actually skilled himself, all right? Now, and these are by statistics, all right, that the research have done over not only 10,000, 5,000, 10,000, 1,000, it's 80 to 100 over thousands of people have been actually done research academically. Most of these chief titans or leaders or C-level executives, not employed, founders themselves, have actually advanced degrees, all right? And the idea of Silicon Valley having college dropout is a really old school, it's a really old news. So if you're pitching, talking about, you don't want to be the next Gates or Zuckerbergs, I'm so sorry. Do your homework properly, all right? Because the stats are very, very clear, all right? It's not new. For the last 20 years, all right, it has been recorded and been tracked and monitored that startup chief or CEO, all right, and their team, of course, if they have a co-founders like CTO or COO, everyone has a degree and an advanced degree. In fact, 62% have advanced degree, means further study, means after diploma or degree, they have masters, PhDs. So to say that, so I want to denounce this myth, to say that you do not need one because now you're busy running a startup, it's basically a myth, all right? And I'm not saying that because I want to sell your program, because I'm done myself, because I really see it with my own eyes when I was doing advisory work in the field, all right, walking the talk, and doing in academia, bridging the gap between the academia with a lot of input to look into the syllabus. I realized a lot of people, even from the slides that they do, you will realize that everything is researched through Google. Today, you can be a Google expert. You can download every single thing, put it nicely. And if you're nice, you will give credit. You will have citations and whatnot. But most of it is not backed by proper research. It's just like, you know, I think I like some of these sharing by some of the speakers last week to say that, you know, it's just all hype and whatnot, right? So, and I want to bring you back to the context of Asia. And you know this guy, handsome guy? How many of you can recognize him? How many of you like his songs? Does he look like someone you know in the Pearl of Orion in Hong Kong? He looked like Andy Hui, right? Hui Jingon. All right, this is not Hui Jingon. This is not Andy Hui, the singer who have attracted controversial with his very, very famous wife. All right. Yeah, I look like Andy Hui, right? Some of you were saying. I purposely choose this photo because, give a guess, for those of you who still didn't know who is this. Anyone know who is this? I like to find inspirational icons because I read a lot of autobiographies and I basically interviewed many as well and talked to many as well. Some of the local icons in Malaysia. Some of the speakers invited also are very young, you know. So they have their own success phases in the early days. No, it's not Ma Yun, it's not Alan Yun. Yes, it's our legendary unicorn, the one who just listed in Nasdaq. This is Anthony Tan from Grab, yeah. And of course, their story is not just about success. If you look into their early days, they have their younger days, they have their naive days. And of course, he doesn't make it big alone. He has his own co-founder and partner, which is Tan Hui Ling, all right, which is also Malaysian, both Tans, right? So anyone with Tans here, you're proud of your own lineage as well. But the commonality is that they have met in a Harvard Business School, all right? Today, without Harvard, not just crediting their alma mater, but they would have actually gotten their business knowledge. It would have become, and I've saw their interview since early days until today. I've been tracking them, and especially after I did my studies on an executive masters, I realized that there's a lot of correlation in terms of why they're successful, how come they execute that, and of course it draws a lot of things. It's not just because they are pioneer, right? Hey, by the way, ride hailing, which they started, which is called My Taxi, it's nothing new, right? In Malaysia, we call it tumpang saja ma, tumpang kereta. In the West, they call it hitchhike the car, right? Tumpang, you know. So of course they have done their business case study, you know, back in the West when they were doing Harvard. They looked into Uber, they looked into Airbnb and stuff. And of course, you know, they from My Taxi in Malaysia went into Singapore, Hazana story and the Temasek story and the Grab Taxi, and today is not even a ride-hailing company anymore. All right, it's become a fintech company. They have do food deliveries, they have financials, and they were still showing the finger number one. After so many years of journey, it's all back to one now. Whoever investor have been exited today, they are accountable to the public. But why I want to bring this thing is that today the success story looks very sweet, but it all boils down to one thing: they did their business school. Okay, and that's the one thing that I want to highlight, that most talks that you find out there do not talk about that, because who cares? You know, it's just a paper. It's just a paper. All right, what I want is the resources, the money. You know, Alan is talking crap. This is not important academic study. Yeah, right. You are spending a lot of money to your kids' education, right? Okay, whoever is a parent here, I think you will nod your head. If this is a live event, I think I will get a lot of head nods. All right, because we take our children, our priceless next generation very seriously, and we have gone through our own studies as well. All right, so by bringing this up, I just want to share with you a little bit of my journey and why I felt that advanced or higher education is something that is important for entrepreneurs, because I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've done multiple business. Some already I've exited. Of course, the early days was all dormant. And today I'm very much into just these two industries. All right. Now, for me, my MBA is basically, I feel that I went in there not just for the paper, for the title, for whatever it is, but for the networking part of it. That's for me. All right. But little did I know, when I went in there, my cohort was basically people from all over the world. I was not doing distance learning because I went into enroll into an executive master that is a little bit different, but it is accredited in the States, all right, under the Council of Higher Education. Basically, it is mind-boggling because for me, number one, I'm following the States, which is a different time zone. So most of my night time, practically 11 p.m. onwards, I don't have to go for live lectures, but there are meetings that I get to know and meet and network. But what strikes me in a master's degree is that basically the program and the modules, which is quite standard in almost any Ivy Leagues, all right, and I've chosen US for a very strong reason, all right, is that the case studies that I have to go through are practically something that mimics real life. As an entrepreneur, I don't have to learn from actual mistake. It's very pricey. I basically can learn from things that has been done. And of course, you can say, yeah, we don't have to take it, all these things. We can just do it even if we are busy with our business. But at least it is basically structured. The assignments that I do and the people that I talk to and I group together to do my assignments, it gives me the room to really grow as a person. Not that I don't have the strategy and the critical mindset all these years. It's just that it formalizes not just in terms of a paper or a degree, but it gives me the room to really dig deep down inside and say that this was the mind gap that I did not see when I was facing crisis, or I was facing a roller coaster in my entrepreneurial journey, or when I was assessing and doing market research, as example for SWOT analysis or whatever that we all know, right? We are doing pitching, when you're doing the pitch deck. But are these standard templates that must be seen by VCs and seed angel or seed investors? All right. Could there be something that is more relevant, that is more useful? So I enrolled into a business school of and technology, which I also go into blockchain specializations. And I realized that, as Dr. Lee was talking about Web3 earlier, we have subject matters which are industry-based, but there is an element of academia that needed to be digested. There's thousands of literatures that you can go into, Harvard Business Review, New York Times, Forbes. All these things you cannot afford to do maybe during your entrepreneurial ventures. And perhaps that was a reason that most startups do not want to take this up. And I can say that eventually you have to take it up, might as well start early. So I was like burning the midnight oil last 1 year just to do this for 13 months program. And I was like, have to even balance with family and also, of course, my work and my career. And I was like running 2 startups now, one at a POC stage, one is an MVP stage. I was like, wow, it requires so much of things, but I'm really thankful that because of what I've gotten from my case studies and my network, a lot of ideas that not ideas there are plenty, right? A lot of cultural perspective. Because today I can tell you with a snap of finger, I have access to almost 20 to 30 countries. I don't have to just look for branded VCs, all right? I'm connected with C-levels decision makers, not just because I have to be an influencer in LinkedIn with what, a lot of people say you need to have what, many thousands of followers, 20,000, 6,000 followers. Those are high buys as well, all right? Of course, you can have a door, you can open the conversation easily, but we almost every other week having events and online that is worldwide, I realized that I have exposed myself to something that I did not see 20 years ago when I wanted to further my studies, which is the network part and of course the mindset and the culture and the critical thinking that I would not get if I would not have done my studies, all right? So example, this is some of the things that I think most of you have known. This is only like, 7 days ago news, all right? We have seen once very powerful startup in Malaysia, for the last 7 years that have ceased operation effective immediately. Now, I'm not saying that to basically highlight to you negative news or whatever, but this is actual crisis, right? Imagine today you are the founders of Happy Fresh. You have been in the driver's seat. Can you imagine the stress that he has to gone through, or he or she has to gone through, the team have to gone through, and the thousands of employees that is under them, all right, to basically come to this conclusion to cease operation, all right? Of course, out there in the startup world, there's a different type of news. In the media, there are different type of news, but I just want to let you know that these are crises that it could have been avoided, and the amount of work that you have to go through to come to a decision making to cease operation basically can be simulated in an academic world with real actual case study. And I'm sure the B schools around the world or even this region will be using some of these as some case studies in the future. And if you think this is short of news, let's look into something nearer, which is just 4 days or 5 days ago, where it says that Alibaba has poured in so much of money. Of course, this is written by the author, or which most of you may not agree, okay, but this is still news. And it's talking about the 2 biggest regional play of e-commerce company, all right? But can you imagine that when you talk about funding, when you're talking about your Series A and B and C, people are talking about wrapping up operations, people are talking about, keeping, putting in money. And of course, this one is even news. I think I just got it last night, I'm not sure, but let me quote this by TechWire. Custom is laying off people in the next 24 hours. All right. So even a unicorn is not left out. They're facing crisis every day. My question is this: as a founder, as the driver, all right, are you capable of handling such crises? You may have your board of advisory, you may have your mentor, but do you have the capability, okay, that perhaps it would be a privilege if you have seen this earlier? All right. So we always look into diversity, equality, inclusion. We talk about that in our pitch deck, but are we really embracing those things? Do we have inclusion? Do we have different culture, different mix of board of director, gender, and all these things. Do we really have that capability to see things that, sometimes it's the blind spot. We do not know what we do not know. So, and I appreciate that if you can complete, if founders in startup world can actually complete or even pursue higher education as a lifelong development, as a talent development for your own staff, that would be something good. All right. And this is something that I believe that it should be that way. You cannot just launch a program in the market just to sell it and just to brand it with different ranking or stars because it is so good. I think startup world today have to be very realistic that, perhaps there is some gap or blind spot that we do not know what is happening in academic. And I think it is important that we seek that knowledge, because if that can be applied, I think it makes us as a responsible founders, as people who can really pursue entrepreneurship and take care of the market. And perhaps in my own words, I call it adapt to the market, which I will show you a bit of this later on. So the key characteristic I would really round up before the next 5 minutes is to basically the dedication and the willing to learn, all right, to take risks, and of course more of action, all right. So I think in scaling startups or having this critical thinking or scaling from 0 to 1, we always say it is that we always have this thing that we dabble on, which is called decision making. Decision making is, I will always say there's no such thing as a wrong decision. It's only a decision that we make it right. Okay, that's my belief level. Whenever I talk to my own team, whenever I talk to, on the stage, there's always lessons to be learned, decision that is not so right, but you can always improve on it. And I would like to bring on to these two things that I personally gone through myself, because I was once an engineer by profession. I was working for the national car company, and I learned this word called fast is slow, slow is fast, which basically boils down to this word called change. In the business world, in the startup world, it's always either you change or people change, all right? And if you can't change fast enough, you will be makan, you'll be eaten alive by the competition, all right? Of course, we talk about blue ocean, red ocean, that's another story for another day. And can you imagine in those days, I'm just sharing my observation, so disclaimer. So this is basically, I was there during those years, and as you can see, our national car company has evolved in terms of the logos. So in the early days, in the 80s and 90s, I wasn't there. I was in the early start of the millennium, where this logo was embraced, and that time the car that came out was the Vaja. All right. Now, Vaja, there's a story to be learned there as a case study. All right. It's because, number one, it took many years for the company to launch this. The production lead time for this car is very long. Of course, there are many reasons for it, but I can say that it is basically looking at other people's, what features they have. Then you start to put in, I want to put in a Bluetooth on my dashboard, so I can listen to the video. Then the steering, I can have more buttons. So there is basically a lot of adaptation from other people's features, but it became a slow decision making in such a way that by the time they do it, the market is no longer relevant. There are other facelift that is done by other cars, whereas another competitor, which is one of the biggest company in the world at that time, Toyota, they do the lean production. All right, and I call it slow is fast because for them, they change very fast. They facelift every 2-3 months, their lead time, but they receive feedback. They use the agile method, which now is being used in all the tech startup. All right, so agile method, if you study it, you will based back on this lean manufacturing system, which is headed by Toyota for the last 2 years. All right, and basically, they believe that basically you don't have to decide so long first. So if you reflect back into academia, where we do a lot of literature review, where we read literatures, where we do assignments, all right, in the academia B school, you have to basically look into peer-reviewed journals. You cannot just look into blogs, things that are not peer-reviewed. You have to really study it. You do assignments on it. Now, isn't that something that you do in real life? That you have to call for your management meeting every Monday morning or whatever, or you can do agile method every day, half an hour, or you can be doing your C management or board meeting. You have to do that kind of things, right? But you would be doing things on and on without realizing that perhaps what are the ways that we can improve on. So if you have taken, or if we have actually taken the bold step to go onto this academic route, perhaps it is something that we can so-called simulate. So we deliberate and diagnose, and then we do some research and action on it. Basically, in academia, it is by choice. Okay, we decide very fast, but we change slowly. So there's a lot of iteration, there's a lot of time before you graduate. Whereas sometimes in the market, you're left with no choice. You're thrown onto the deep end of the ocean and you are faced the brutal world. So a lot of changes come very fast, and you start to adapt to it slowly, okay? But it is a very costly process if you make mistakes, all right? So the business scenario is usually there's this hustle culture, okay? We will go on and, you just go and execute first, I don't know, and then we change, So that kind of mindset, which is very pricey if you are accountable to your venture capitals, even the general partners have to be very accountable to the limited partners and all these things. So the whole idea, the whole thing, the gap is very, very distinct. So I would want to go back to the root and say that, why not we get ourselves equipped with this? Even if today you have started a startup venture, why not you just go into academia? All you need is another maybe 12 or 18 months at best. To get it done, at least you have another resources that you can open up to. Because anyway, you're going to meet new people, you're going to raise funds. Why not open another channel where you can start to pitch your real actual businesses to your academic fellows? Who knows? Another round of, and I'm sure there's money is not a cost for you now at the moment if you are doing this, all right? So I myself also, another learning and another benefit of doing my master's is that I can network with a lot of all these global markets, which I've just shared, people from Ivy Leagues and people from which I can access now in terms of my connection, in terms of my market survey, my primary research and whatnot. Okay, and of course, I look at myself. This is some of my, the middle is some of my colleague mates from Zulik Pharma, from WeChat, Tencent, from Citibank, high-level, C-level executive vice presidents. We met up in Singapore, and these are, of course, all my cohorts from other countries as well. All right. So if you feel that this is something that you would like to know more or you would like to pursue, I do not mind to share because this is only just some sharing for half an hour, and we will call it so-called say goodbye. But I will just give me 5 minutes to share with you what I'm actually doing right now. Now, I have actually basically curated a program on entrepreneurship for startup specifically. Of course, it will link to corporate entrepreneurship for those of you who are working as a global C executives. It's actually an executive program in business administration level 7, equivalent to MBA, and it's a tie-up accreditation with UK in Wandsboro College, Ireland. Malaysia, we are tying up, collaborating with this Asia Metropolitan University. So I'm a adjunct fellow for MSMED and recently appointed after the Senate. We have gone through it for almost 18 months just to strike this partnership to basically now offer a master's equivalent degree program for startup entrepreneurs. Knowing your business schedule. So it's going to be a very flexible 6 core modules that is done every other month, basically on your leadership and managing skills, operations, supply chain, corporate finance, competitive strategies, all right, decision making and whatnot. And of course, the highlight of this, of course, will be my 2 elective modules that I curated for the academia. And this weekend, I'm doing the entrepreneurship startup playbook. Basically, we go in depth on the academia side, on the research base, all right, rather than just short courses that you can find online on MOOC. So, and of course, we'll follow up with the next module on ideation to commercialization, which most of you are in terms of your MVP and funding. All right, so these are some of the things that I'm doing. And of course, our next intake is quite actually every other month. It's quite flexible because we only do like 1 module every month, and then the rest of the time is your student learning time, your assignments, your project papers, and of course your colloquiums every 6 months before we graduate. So you have an option to actually graduate this here locally as well as European. We are taking in even students from overseas. So there's a global cohort that you can network with, regional play. All right. So and for those of you who want to go for another immersion overseas, we are in tie-up with this Oxford and Manchester College, which is happening actually this week, okay, by Professor Giles, which is my colleague. All right, for those of them who decided that they want to go for this immersion or plenary summit in there, covering IR 4.0, corporate sustainability and future of work. All right, so this is some of the snapshots, all right, what is happening in Oxford and Cambridge right now. And of course, fellowships. Fellowships is like, of course, it's always there. Some of you decided that a local academia is good. Some of you decided overseas academia is good, like myself. But I guess today we are global citizens. We are not bounded by anything except maybe our time to sleep. So time zone is still a challenge. But I believe if you are flying here and there and you network, business is not issue, right? If you can find an incubator or accelerator elsewhere, fundings and VCs, you will just go where the money is, right? As a co-founder or a startup founders. All right. So I think basically my point is that we all know that time is a luxury that businessman doesn't know have, right? So if you feel that this is something that you should look into it, I welcome all questions and answers. All questions on this matter. Being an entrepreneur who actually walked the academic path, and I believe in lifelong learning. All right, and I would like to see my team as well to be much into this path as well, because I think it will make our frequency, our mindset closer and better. So okay, so yeah, as I promised, I will end before 1. So for those of you who have interest into knowing more about what I do, I want to pick my brain beyond just this academia. Of course, this is this QR scan is to lead to the not my phone number, but if you want to know more interest about the IEPBA, which is our executive program in entrepreneurship that we are doing now, globally, online every weekend. Not every weekend, sorry, every other weekend. So please drop this here. So can screenshot this, all right, and drop us a message. So this is my social media handle. For those of you who want to know more, want to keep in touch, want to know what I'm doing, or even just social, just say hi, because I always believe there's no business other than starting with friendship first, because, even you have to build a relationship with your venture capital, whoever who's going to fund you, you have to build a relationship. So I believe in connecting with people genuinely. Life is short after the pandemic. So be genuine, be brutal, and most probably be aggressive, all right? And be a bit foolish lah. Go back to academia lah, like the late Steve Jobs said. So thank you very much. Terima kasih Nandri, and I'll leave the last 2 minutes for any Q&A, any pressing questions from Caroline or the online friends who have joined me. And as I always respect organizers' timing, I'm going to do until 1 o'clock so that I can go back and head over to my other session. Thank you very much, Alibaba. Thank you very much, Hans Profit, and thank you very much, Caroline. Yes, any questions?
Yeah, probably you can close your slide so that it will be bigger on the on the Facebook. Yeah. Okay. So far, is there any questions from the audience? Any questions from audience? Also, in case anyone miss keying in your QR code, scanning your QR code, is it possible for you to key the link into the chat box so that I can also share across to Facebook?
Yeah. Well, now I may not able to do that. Can I do it later to you?
Yeah. You can send to
Can
me.
I share to you so that you can text in the Facebook? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes. Okay. I know it's 12:59. Any questions from the audience? This is your best chance to ask Dr. Ellen. I'm very shy. Very shy.
If there's any question that I overlook or later on, I will just go back to the page there and just I personally will answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it will be a short one because of Facebook.
Yeah. They are on Facebook. 200 over people right now.
Oh, okay. So hello, 200 over people. Say hi when you see me face to face, in Klang Valley or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you can just click their names and still hold you. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's for now. I think I will not disturb you because I know you're rushing back. It's 1 o'clock already. But thank you so much. And I will share your program with the chat here and also on Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's very short for time for you, so I won't push you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you all in the judging event.
On the 27th, physical APU. That will be our final. Yeah.
Sure. Look forward to connect with all the judges and speakers as well. All right. All the best to all the participants. All the best. Thank you.
Enjoy your training session. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.